As many of you are aware, there's this way to deliver cloud-hosted VDI, and that's with using Windows Virtual Desktops. And Windows Virtual Desktops is a really good foundation on which to start your whole VDI deployment when you're looking at cloud-based deployments.
Yeah, for sure. But I think what's important is that your users, take advantage of the solution. They have to have a good user experience, right? Because if you deliver something that's not great, then your users are going to find ways to do their work in a different way.
Yeah, and it's the user experience as well as the admin experience. And so Windows Virtual Desktop, is this good foundation. What we want to make sure is that it's successful. And there are ways to be able to do this where we focus on the user experience and the admin experience to make it really good so that we can make a Windows Virtual Desktop implementation very successful. And for that, we want to bring in one of our experts on the topic, and that's Rob Beekmans, and he can fill us all in about how we can just make Windows Virtual Desktop a success.
Yes, thank you. So I made a slide deck with 5 things that we would need to make every Windows Virtual Desktop environment successful. And I want to break down that value add story. It's a value add story because the foundation is Windows Virtual Desktop into 5 areas. So 5 areas that you would need to focus on for a successful WVD deployment. I would like to highlight 1 or 2 topics inside these areas. There is way more to explain, but we don't have time for that. There's a lot on citrix.com about that. So a few topics where Citrix adds value and helps with that success. Let's start with hybrid multi-cloud, which of course is a bit of a buzzword, but let's call it flexibility. Any platform, any client, any network connection. That is how I got to know Citrix in the 90s. I think this platform overview shows we still are the any company. A true hybrid solution with true multi-cloud where we natively integrate with all major cloud providers. And of course, Azure is our primary platform, but yeah, you could have other use cases as well. But also enable the use of on-premises platform or even hosted ones. Solution, I think, for any use case from one cloud console. And even remote PC access, which saved the day for a lot of companies in the beginning of the pandemic. And Citrix enables customers to independently connect resource locations. So no Active Directory sync, no line of sight. This enables a lot of use cases because you can scale out real fast without adding cost for VPNs to connect locations. Adding resource locations during a merger doesn't affect other resource locations. No tunnels, no sinks, flexibility as it should be. That's the difference in many of other competitors out there. They need to sync their resource locations. They need to be in line of sight of each other. So we offer customers a lot of flexibility. And then we come to optimize operations. And it's all about consoles, tools, processes, and how you enable to work faster, more efficiently, how we optimize your work, but also the workloads, because you want to get most out of it while keeping costs low. Optimize operations is all about being able to do your job as efficiently as possible. No complexity, just good tools, to the point solution. And let me give you an example. Enabling fast user support, getting to the root cause of an issue is one of the optimizations, because users will get into trouble. They will have bad connections, device won't connect, and so on. You need to help them. Citrix Director, CAS, and other tools help in fast resolving of user issues. But also optimizing your running workloads, making sure you are not wasting money running instances unused. Optimal usage of bandwidth, CPU resources. Again, to lower the cost. And we do that through better scalability. And with better scalability, you need less instances. And with less instances, there's less cloud cost. And there's a good blog about this. You see it on the screen here. And the cost calculator also at Citrix.com that goes into the weeds of why our consoles or processes in the product optimize operations. And these are real numbers from our customers, a real test in how much time it takes to solve an issue with or without Citrix. And we really clicked through the consoles. We let people click through the console to see how much time it would take and if it was possible without Citrix. But there is more. Yeah, sorry.
One of the things about the cost, I think that's what people need to realize is that when you're doing a cloud-based virtual desktop like Windows Virtual Desktop, that the mindset you have to change versus an on-prem is that on-prem, you're pretty much going to leave these things online, turned on, powered on all day, every day. And it's like, yeah, you can turn them off and try to save some electrical power, and there's been costs,
Right.
analysis of that. But in the cloud environment, shutting these resources down is a huge cost savings. Like that's what you were saying, was that with tools like Autoscale, we can help reduce the costs of a cloud-based
But also
VDI
WAM.
deployment.
If you look at WAM, if you have an Excel running or an application running that's going wild on CPU usage, you can tune it down until it behaves normal again. And with that, you save a lot of resources and you enhance scalability. So yeah, you need less instances in cloud. It really saves a lot of cost, but it takes time to set it up and to configure it correctly. And you need the right tools. So, as I said, there is more. Internally, we are looking at Citrix on Citrix micro apps. How can we leverage micro apps to make the life of users, but also admins, easier? And this is a good example, showing insight in licensing and helping admins and managers to see why licenses are to expire. Anything that exposes an REST API can be a target for a micro app. And there's more to this, also for users, like we have a CVAT micro app to control a session or a desktop, restart, log off, gives control to a user and lowers calls to a help desk. Again, that's optimize operations. And again, also with the licensing micro app, we saw that a lot of emails about expirations were being received by mailboxes that were not active anymore. So customers would not see that their license was expiring, and that's why this license micro app that gives a feed in the Workspace app is really helpful. And then, of course, we get to secure user experience, which is what Citrix stands for, best user experience out there. We have the best protocol in the market. And I should ask Dan, of course, to explain this, because he originally made this slide and the video around it. But let me, for the sake of time, tell you that if you look at any typical web page, it's most of the time has some section of video, some images, and some text. And one codec works better with a video, and the other one works better with text. Which one would you choose? Would you sacrifice video for text clearness, or would you sacrifice text readability for video performance? And instead of selecting a single encoding scheme, we let the protocol decide how to encode portions of the screen. That's important, portions. So adaptive display, if we're using that, then we end up with the following. So for video and 3D highlighted in white, we use H.264 because that's best at optimizing content that is rapidly changing. But you don't want to use H.264 for the whole screen because it has a high hit on CPU usage. That would kill scalability again. So we want to limit the amount of screen it utilizes. And for images, we use thin wire codec because it's optimized for static images, and it has low CPU usage. And finally, for text, highlighted in blue, we want to avoid the blurring around the edges of the letters, which would affect readability. So adaptive display will use overlay lossless technology, and you get crisp letters. And at Citrix, we support several unified communication solutions, from Teams to Zoom to WebEx and more. And with Teams, we even support Windows, Mac, and Linux. We're the only one in the market that support all endpoint devices. And that's again flexibility, because not all your users will be using Windows. Some users will be using Mac or Linux. And if it's not optimized, you get some compression, and the CPU load on the VDA will be high, which kills scalability, more instances, higher cost. So again, flexibility. That's, I think, one of the real strengths of Citrix. And maybe a sad story, the cloud goes down. We've seen it happen a few times the past year. Sometimes a region goes down, sometimes more goes down, authentication goes down, but it does. And we have Citrix resiliency, and resiliency is securing your user experience. So if the workspace URL for one is unreachable, a bar will show that there is something down. Depending on what is down, you may still reach some resources, but it will show because the grayed out resources are not available anymore. And at Citrix, we work really hard with resiliency. And depending on what goes down, certain scenarios go into play. So if Citrix Cloud is impacted, the CVAT services Cloud connectors take control. And when the identity service is impacted, then connection lease comes into play. If the internet is down, we are not magicians, then only local resources are reachable, of course. But that's why you need to have a solution like Citrix on top of Windows Virtual Desktop. Flexibility is what saves your day, and then resiliency to make sure that if things go down, that you still can work with most of your apps and desktops is really what you need.
And I think that that's important, right? Like providing the users, I think keeping users in the dark is not the best approach. And so
Right.
providing users with at least some knowledge of it's not on you, right? Like there's something down, we're working on it, and you may not have access to all your resources, but hey, you do have access to, to a couple of resources so that you're not fully not productive. So I think that's really powerful from an end user perspective, being in the know and not thinking, hey, like it's something wrong on my end or what is going on. So I think that's important to highlight.
Yeah, and then if you contact support, that they also see what's going on, that they are not, that's not true, you're not having an issue while the user's having an issue. That's what you saw quite a lot with other environments in the past. And that's with Citrix, with all the monitoring, analytics, resiliency, all the tools together. We can see what's going on with the user, and we can really help the user as far as it goes. If internet is down, yeah. Again, we are not magicians. So that's a good step to monitoring and analytics. It's really important. You need to be able to support users. You need to see what's going on in your environment and get those early warnings. So Install Director is, I think, the best tool in the market to support users. You have a lot of details on sessions. You have a logon breakdown of 3 consecutive sessions, with even a breakdown of GPO, so you could see which GPO is causing issues, if a GPO is causing an issue. You have protocol channel insights, processes, shadowing. I think everything you need to support a user. You can't do without it. When I was a consultant, this was the tool that we always worked with. You couldn't do without the tool. But now we also have Citrix Analytics services, and it's adding a more high-level overview with the ability to deep dive. So that GPO, which would be causing an issue, you could look at that from a total environment view and then dive into resource location. So if that's causing an issue and you can fix that issue, you fix it for hundreds of users. So that has a lot of value for admins. And now we added black hole machines, and black hole machines, they are machines that failed 4 consecutive session requests. So once those machines are behaving like that, they are not accepting sessions anymore. You can zoom into the machine, put it in maintenance mode, restart it, but look what's going on. There might be processes hanging there, or somebody is running an Excel sheet with a lot of calculations. And that really gives value to an admin. And then, of course, we have user experience score. How is the user experiencing their session? Based on numerous metrics and machine learning, we give the session a value. And it's a value of the session. We cannot see in the user's head what they feel about the session. So we give a value to the session, and it gives the admin an ID how the session is performing. And he or she can then act on details seen when drilling down. So anything below 60 is just a bad session. There will be various factors why that user is not happy with the session. And I would even say anything below 80 is something that an admin should work on. So as an admin, you can click, let's say, on all sessions that are below 60, and then you see, like, again, a GPO is causing an issue, and you zoom in and you see which GPO is having that issue, is causing that issue, and you can fix that, and suddenly the score for all those users will go up. That's powerful. That's really powerful. There's so much more. I wish I had more about this, but I think I learned that Anna is doing a session real soon about this. And last but not least, security and compliance. I was creating this slide, and I have to say it makes a really cool list. I wish I had access to all of this when I was building customer environments. The last addition is process control, where you can control process access from within applications. So PowerShell, for one, you cannot be started from Word.exe, but only from CMD.exe. And it differs from what you do with AppLocker. With AppLocker, you have session-based. So you can block PowerShell, but then it is blocked in the whole session. And with process control and WAM, you block it per application, which is a real powerful tool. And again, of course, we have more like watermarking and endpoint analysis. session recording, and so on, which are real powerful tools to protect your IP. With security analytics, another of those cool products in the solution, Bastic, you can see who logged on from where and add them to a watch list if they break policy. It could be that somebody logs on from a new device, and yeah, that's a policy that you set there. If somebody logs in from a new device, I want to add it to a watch list, and so on. If the user breaches a policy, let's say they download a large number of files, they connect from an unusual location, have a jailbroken device, then they are added to a watch list. But you can also start session recording at that point, just to see what's going on. And of course, you would alert an admin. And the watch list gives then a good view on what happened for later analysis.
And I think, Rob, if we could just pause for 1 second, I think it's important, like the dashboard that you showed in the previous slide, the access assurance dashboard. I think that's really powerful because we've had customers who they were able to very quickly detect malicious users because let's say they don't have a presence in the Middle East. And with this dashboard, they'd see that they have a couple of users logging in from the Middle East.
Right.
And that may have taken them years, right? They may have never found this out. And just with that one dashboard, we've seen customers say, like, just for that, security analytics has been worth it. So
right, that's a real good point. And you have now, I don't have the slide here, but there is also a micro app in the works that shows the user, the real user, that somebody's logging in with their credentials, and then they have to say like, hey, is this you, or is this somebody trying to log in under your account? Which again, I think. It's like what Google and Facebook are doing also. Are you logging in or from this new device? And then you have to authenticate or use two-factor authentication to verify, and otherwise the user access is blocked. Important are the actions. Do you want to log them off? Do you want to log them off instantly, or start session recording, or have them identify who they are? A bit like what I just said. Google or Facebook if you log on from a new computer. So there are many options available to keep your IP safe. And that's all I had for the 5 things that you need to make your Windows Virtual Desktop environment successful. And there's a lot more on citrix.com, there's a lot more on Citrix YouTube channel, and there will be a number of sessions on other topics that are really interesting to watch.
So you had just under 20 minutes and to talk about the ways to make Windows Virtual Desktop successful in the organization. If time was not a factor, how long could you have spent on this topic?
Do you have a day or I did a session last Friday that took 3 hours, and we were over time 12 minutes at the end. So yeah. There is so much to show. There are so many cool features and functionalities we have. And you always have to pick some choice. I didn't show browser content redirection, which I think is cool. Because if you order a pizza and you see the location of your Azure data center, that doesn't really make sense. I want to see my home location, otherwise the pizza gets delivered wrong. So many things to show, had to make a selection.
Yeah, and that's, it's like Windows Virtual Desktop, like I was saying at the beginning, it's this really good foundation, but to make it a success, I mean, you have to be able to handle lots of different use cases, lots of different scenarios. Users are connecting from many different locations on many different devices. You don't know what the network connections are like. There's just so many variables that you have to deal with in a virtual desktop environment. I mean, that's why you use something like Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops on top of Windows Virtual Desktop, so you can handle all these use cases from a single solution.
Exactly.
Well, with that, we are unfortunately out of time, but hey, thanks for enlightening us, Rob.
Nice. Thank
thanks,
you.
Rob.
Thanks for having me.